All right, we're checking to make sure all connections are fine before we go fully live right here. Um, Actually, I may need to put some startup music at the beginning because it's showing us sending data, and our Facebook X page is streaming. That's good, and Facebook page is streaming, so that is good, and YouTube page is now streaming, so we're all set. All right, folks, here's our agenda for today for the ChathamNC Sports Roundup with me from the Chatham Journal and Ashibo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. And folks, Ashibo's got a whole bunch of stuff coming up today. We've got talking about C4 players get to meet and greet the new football coach at C4. Ashibo also does, and this was his idea, and I thought it worked out really well. He did a 100-yard walk and talk with Coach Matthews, the new coach at C4. Also, more news on Drake Powell. Is he staying in the NBA? We'll let you know what we've heard. And then, of course, spring sports playoffs are here. And we're going to talk about results, everything from golf, softball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, and also track and field, because that's going on as well. And again, paper comes out today, Chatham News and Record, so we'll let you know what's going on there. All right, what I am going to do now is I am going to go hide this. And before we start here's a quick, I think this should work fine. I'm hoping it will work fine. Oh, all right. Well, we'll try it now. We'll do this. Here we go. All right. Look, the Scrum method, you try things out, you see what works and doesn't work. And I need to know to set the orientation before we start playing the video. All right. Shibo's got a whole lot to talk about, but let's start off with C4's got a new football coach and a new athletic trainer. There was a meet and greet, and Shibo did a 100-yard, actually one way and back. So it's 2 times a 100-yard walk and talk with the coach. So Shibo, give us a rundown of what's going on at C4 with the new football coach as well as the new athletic trainer.
Yeah, so especially for the Jordan Matthews people, new athletic trainer Courtney is going over to C4 to take over in their athletic training department and help them out there. That was something they were missing this past season and really needed with, I think, the athletic director, Jared Worley, taking some responsibility with making sure the athletes are seen during injuries and, healthy throughout those different games and things like that. But the biggest thing from that night was, of course, like you said, Tolbert Matthews, a new head football coach at C4, introducing himself to the community. He brought his family, his father, his mom, his wife and his daughter, and also had the boys, a lot of the football players sitting in on that as well. Got to talk to them and meet the players pretty much for the first time that night. And yeah, Matthews is coming from Fayetteville State, where he was coaching linebackers for the past 2 seasons. And he's coming in with a lot of college experience. He played at Delaware State and Elizabeth City State as a player. He was, of course, a linebacker. That was the biggest thing he emphasized, that's his main thing and what he loved doing on the football field. So it's coming in, of course, with that defensive mentality and keeping the same, a lot of the same coaches from last year, right? Coach Mann, Coach Atkinson, Tobias Palmer as well. And he's going to add in a new offensive line coach and strength and conditioning coach to the coaching staff as well. But talking to Tolbert, he's coming in with that old school mentality, things he got from coaches, when he was a player and the coaches he coached with on the HBCU level. And he also has some experience coaching high school here in North Carolina after leaving Elizabeth City State. He came, spent some time at Willow Spring and other schools in Wake County as well. And we actually, got to talking, and you guys read the story that came out today for the Chatham News and Record about just kind of his plan for the program. He talked about how he actually saw Seaford before even thinking he could get this job. He was on the coaching staff at Willow Spring. I think they were here for a JV football game, and they came to support as varsity coaches. And he was really impressed with the facilities, the newness of the school. And he, said he could really see himself coming in, leading this program, which was a dream of his, was to lead a program of his own. And now he gets to do that here at Seaford, the school he saw a couple of years ago. And yeah, just talking to him, like I said, the plans he wants to bring in, for the type of football he wants to instill here at Seaford. He wants to be a fast, physical, aggressive football team. Of course, emphasis on running the ball and defense as well, which we've actually seen a lot for Seaford the past couple of years under Terrence Gary, who started the program here in 2022 on the varsity level. So, yeah, it seems like the community was really receptive of him as well. A lot of parents were there, smiling, really excited to see Coach Matthews. And it looks like Seaford is, heading in the right direction as far as establishing this new culture here and trying to get some playoff success now, because they had some years where they've shown improved play on the field, especially last season. I think went 3-7, but a lot of those games where they lost, they were much closer than years prior. So now they're trying to make that next step into playoff contention, especially going into the 5A level, and build a really good program at Seaford.
Yeah, I know. I also noticed in our discussion when you were talking to him out on the field, he had an S on his chest already, and I asked him about that, and he said he went out and bought it. And I don't think he could have gotten a bigger S because it filled up the entire left-hand side, left-hand side of his jacket. And I asked him who sewed it on for him. He said, "Hey, I took it in for a shot, went out to lunch, and after lunch it was ready and set to go." So he was all enthusiastic about it. We also found out that he has a 4-year-old daughter, Journey, who is involved in all sorts of sports, and he wants to actually get her involved in flag football. So we may have to get her hooked up with Cedric with the Chatham County football program down the road. Courtney. She's come over from JM. It puts her in a closer position to being home. And I think you and I, when we talked with Jared's really happy to have her on board because now he has someone who has the training and the abilities to be able to help athletes. What else did you get from meeting Courtney and having Jared talk about bringing her aboard?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just a big relief for him and a big plus for the program. And also, she has some great experience being a trainer on the college level as well. Like she said, she's been involved with SEC football prior to coming down to North Carolina as well. And like we said, she has familiarity with the county and these athletes because she saw them at Jordan Matthews when, Seaford came down and played them in various sports over the past couple of years. So, it's just a plus for the program to have. We know Seaford has a nice training facility down there by the gym. So, I'm glad. I'm sure she's glad to have those facilities at her disposal at Seaford. And it'll be like we said, a great addition for them and ensuring that their athletes will have the proper care that all athletes should get, especially in the high school level, and making sure they're ready to go every time they step on the court or on the field.
Now, I think the coach also mentioned that they're looking to start spring practice. Was that this week or next week that they were looking to do that?
Yeah, so they were actually looking to start, I think, some spring workouts this week. I think Tuesday was the day he said everything. I think he said everything gets real on Tuesday. So, yeah, he's got the boys pretty much already ready to getting started to get ready to go for this summer and their preparation for the season. Talked to some of the coaches. I think they are planning to do some 7-on-7 during the season as well. And it's going to be tough because, you start a few months behind from, other programs that have already had coaches, and already got some things going with winter workouts, spring football. So it's going to be, a tight window to try to get everything instilled and try to prepare for week 1. But yeah, like I said, I think the boys are really excited. Talk to Duncan, the quarterback. He's really excited for the new coach to come in, and I'm sure a lot of the defensive players are really pumped up as well, knowing he has that defensive knowledge from the college level. He had dreams of playing in the NFL, and has connections to those guys on a high level. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and also he mentioned the possibility of getting together with some of the other coaches in the county and doing a 4-school combine. I mentioned that yesterday at Northwood because I was over at the lacrosse game. Was it yesterday or the day before? So we'll see if that comes about. The other reminder, folks, Shibo and I have done this. Shibo's asked most of the questions, but we have a preseason media day with the 4 Chatham County high school football teams. It was first one was at JM last year. It was at Seaforth. Don't know where that one this year is going to be coming up, but that's something to look forward to because Ashibo does a whole bunch of good preseason write-ups off of that. Ashibo, anything else on the coaching and athletic trainer at Seaforth before you move on to playoffs?
Yeah, only thing also too in our conversations, he has a lot of high expectations for himself coming into his first head coaching job, and that was one of the biggest things. One of the biggest things he's harped on was he wanted to make this one of the best programs, in the state, but also in the country, and that that's a hefty goals. But considering first time as a head coach, and what he kind of explained, it was also more than just football, right? He wanted the boys to be prepared in life. Had also those pretty cool thing too. Had a 4-year plan for them as far as getting professional portfolios, getting into internships before going into college, because one of the biggest things he wants his boys to be prepared for is life after football, which was something he kind of shared with his personal journey with finding what he wanted to do after leaving college. So yeah, I think I like we said, he wants to make this the best program he can, both on the field and off the field. So looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, and folks, you definitely want to pick up a copy of the Chatham News and Record and read about that. It was Ashibo's idea to do the 100-yard walk. I've got to work on my video skills for being able to walk and do that at the same time, but it's worth watching because it's a good. We haven't seen anything like it in Chatham County, and Ashibo did a really nice really nice job talking and walking with the coach and asking him and getting a whole bunch of information from him. All right. You've been busy this week, so let's get into the playoffs. Do you want to start off at golf? Because you spent a couple of days out at the golf course, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it was a rainy golf course, wet golf course, at least on Tuesday in round 2 for the 2A championship. So I did go down to Pinehurst number 6 to check out Seaforth and if they could climb back and try to compete for another state championship. They were entering, I think they entered the second round in 5th place. So they weren't too far off from the top 2 teams between Salisbury and Pine Lake Prep. And then they actually did climb themselves back into the top 3. Actually took second place for a quick second there in the middle of round 2, but they finished with a team score. They finished third with a team score of 629, 61 over par. Just I think 2 strokes away from first place. So still a pretty emphatic finish for Seaforth as a team in the 2A championships. And then on the individual level, Ty Willoughby, who won the individual state championship last year for Seaforth, he's a junior. He finished 4th in the individual competition with a score of 146, 4 over par. And then his teammate, Griffin Ching, right behind him, finished 5th with a score of 148, 6 over par. So, great performances from them on the individual level. And then also on 2A, we had Ben Buckner from Jordan Matthews finishing 46, tied for 46 with a score of 167. And Jackson Freeman from Northwood, he finished tied for 58th with a score of 171 in the 2A championships. And then down at 1A, they only played one round, 18 holes, due to rain in the first day on Monday. Like we said, a lot of rain came down and canceled a whole bunch of stuff across all the sports this week, and we'll talk more about that. But Chatham Central finished 9th as a team with a score of 347. And the leader Tyler Meisimer, excuse me if I'm saying that incorrectly. He finished 12th with a score of 78. And also from Chatham Central, Jesse Escalin, the senior, finished 43rd with a score of 85. And then also some more Chatham Central golfers as well. Stephen Moody and Gavin Vanderford tied together for 73rd with scores of 92. And then for Chatham Charter, they had Caden Porimba, the junior, finishing tied for 76 with a score of 93. So a lot of great finishes for our county boys golfers in the 1A and 2A championships this week. Now, for the other sports, we're in the middle of the state playoffs, not quite at the state championships yet, but we can start with baseball, Gene, if you want to, because we had a lot of good action coming out of the third round for both baseball and softball.
Yeah, let's go for it. And again, folks, Shibo's been covering all the playoffs. A lot of sports going on this week and into next week as well.
Yeah, so third round for baseball, fortunately for Chatham County teams, that is where the season's ended. But we have some great games, especially in the Seaforth game against number 16 Southwest Edgecombe in the 2A East side of things. So yeah, Seaforth fell to, in that one 4-3. Took 9 innings to get there, and they were down 3-0 for a good part of the game, and then stormed back in the bottom of the 6th inning, scored 3 runs there to tie it up, sent it into extra innings, and that one Southwest Edgecombe, they kind of broke the ice. Great pitching battle between both teams, the great defensive game between both teams, and they got the single leading to an RBI there to get the 4-3 lead, and then Seaforth's next turn, they couldn't quite get a run around to tie and extend that game. So that's where the season ends for Seaforth. They ended with an overall record of 19-8. Once again in the third round of the state playoffs, where they finished their season last year after winning 20 plus games. So yeah, and before the third round, Seaforth beat Fairmont 4-1 in that second round game. So that was their week in the playoffs. And then down in 1A, Chatham Charter. In the second round, I saw them beat Gates County 7-0. Went down there to catch the Knights because I hadn't seen them all year, and it was a great defensive performance from Zach Cartret on the mound, Weston Phillips at shortstop, and that's from the team as a whole. And they finished the first 2 rounds with shutouts. Didn't give up a run in the first 2 rounds, but then third round against Falls Lake last night, number 15 seed in the 1A East bracket. They fell to that one 9-1, and they went down early. I think they were down 6-0 by the middle of that game, especially after Falls Lake scored 4 runs in the top of the 5th inning. And story of that one was just hits. Falls Lake had 11 hits. Chatham Charter had 4, and that was the biggest difference there in that game. So Chatham Charter season ended with a regular season. Overall record of 15-9 on the year for Chatham Charter. So, Gene, what do you think about our baseball teams? We don't have any more baseball teams playing now, but what do you think of the baseball season?
I thought it was a pretty good baseball season. I agree with you. It would have been nice to see them go further, but the fact that they got that far, and as you mentioned, that Seaforth game, I wasn't there, but I was following it on Max Preps, and like you said, it went 9 innings. I'm like, when I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, is this a college game? Because it's 7 innings for high school. So congratulations to those guys. We had an opportunity to go see a lot of those teams out there, and I know we shouldn't do this, but you always see this when we're talking about college and pros. What's your feeling for next year? I know it's way, way, way too early to talk about it, but what are you seeing from the teams for next year?
Yeah, for next year, starting with, I guess, especially with every team being in pretty much different conferences except Jordan Matthews and Northwood. So we can't really say 2A and 1A anymore, but I'm going to start with Seaforth. Looking at them, what they've been able to accomplish the past 2 years with their young group. They'll have some guys back, but they're also losing some key guys like Daniel White from the top of the batting lineup, and which would be huge for them. But they got some pretty good younger players, especially on the mound with Bryce Honeycutt, that they can build around and build off of as far as momentum they've picked up this year. So he got some experience in the playoffs on the mound this season, and some other players also got some playoff experience as well. So, and Bauer Bowling as well, great hitter for Seaforth that will think is coming back for them. So I expect Seaford to also have another great baseball season next year. Chatham Charter, the same. They'll have to fill in some holes. I think at the pitcher position and some other places with Luke Johnson going on to college as well. He was a great hitter from them. So it'll be interesting to see how Chatham Charter rebuilds next season. But as far as Northwood, we saw what they did this season with Finn Sullivan on the mound. He's a young guy as well. I think things are looking up for Northwood as Coach Haynes, gets a bigger grip on the program and gets them in the right direction. And then Jordan Matthews, right, young team this year. They had a rough season down in the way to Carolina 1A 2A conference, but Coach Felder, young team, he'll have a lot. I'm sure he'll have a lot of those guys and some of the other guys in the county playing together for the Chatham Legion team coming up this Sunday. We'll talk more about that, but those guys just need more experience, and I expect them to be much better next year. So that's just kind of a rough feeling of what next year might be for baseball here in the county.
All right, let me ask you a couple of one question. I was in Siler City on Saturday, and someone was mentioning the Legion baseball games, and you covered a couple or several games last year, didn't you? And is that something you're going to be covering for the Chatham News and Record again this summer?
Yes. So Chatham American Legion, the baseball team is now going to be known as Post 305, and I will be covering a lot of their games again this year. Remember last year they won their first playoff series in over 2 decades, and that was something I talked with Coach Bill Slaughter about. He was kind of trying to go back and remember all that they've done as a program, and that was a pretty cool accomplishment for them last year. But also the softball team, Post 292 for the Heroes League, they're doing their tryouts, I think, this week. So they'll be getting started pretty soon as well. So we'll cover both of them throughout the summer.
All right. And then I just want to let folks know, Shibo and I talked about this last week, and Shibo mentioned it. Chatham County teams are going to be spread across multiple levels of play for this coming year. However, we do plan to still continue the power rankings because folks like to know how the county schools, it's bragging rights. And it's interesting to hear when we hear back from coaches, some of them are like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, but there's always that but. So we will continue with the power rankings again next year. So even though they're going to be over in conferences and there's going to be a lot of changes, you want to read the Chatham News and Record on Thursdays, and you also want to listen to us do the Roundup. All right, so we got golf, we talked baseball. What you going to talk about next?
Yeah, we got to talk about softball. And Tuesday night, I went to Roxborough Community to see number 7 Chatham Central take on number 10 Bulldogs in the 1A East playoffs, and that one Chatham Central fell 10-3. But from the beginning of the game, it felt like Chatham Central was going to, they got some momentum early on. It looked like they were going to kind of run away from this one early on the way they started. And now, remember, Roxborough beat Chatham Central at Chatham Central last year in the same round. Well, in the second round of the playoffs. And they met in the third round this year. So coming out, Chatham Central took a 3-0 lead. They got, I think, 3 hits in the top of the first inning, just started on fire. And also, too, on the defensive end, only gave up 1 run in response from Roxborough. So they ended the first inning up 3-1 and looked like it was going to be, a game Chatham Central kind of takes over. But Roxborough got hot at the plate. Chatham Central went cold at the plate, didn't get a hit for a couple more innings after that. And then also, too, errors and mistakes on the defensive end led to some more runs for Roxborough. And it quickly got away from Chatham Central from that point on. So, yeah, they finished the season with 20 wins, I think 20-4 overall. And, most wins since 2013. So, great season for the Bears. Got to talk to a couple of the seniors after the game. And, they're really thankful for, their time at Chatham Central and playing with Coach Worf these past 2 years. And they have a really young team as well with some players that's coming back. Now they're losing some key seniors, like we said, Chloe Brewer, Kaylee Worf, the catcher, and Emma Burke, who was a great hitter for them as well, and a third baseman for them. But they got some bright young stars like Maddie Kashmir-Chake on the mound that's coming back. That was pretty much their heartbeat on the defense, and she had a pretty good game. Of course, it kind of went under the radar with some of the other defensive mistakes and the things that happened in that game, but she had a pretty good game against Roxborough. So exciting to see how they rebuild and kind of fill in some holes for that team next year as well, as they try to keep building and eventually get over that hump in the playoffs, because it's been a lot of times they get to the first, second, and maybe the third round like this year, but just can't get over that hump to maybe get into the regional rounds and make a state playoff run. So maybe we'll see that come in the near future, especially with, like we said, classes getting changed and conferences getting changed, and Chatham Central will still be a 1A school next season. But for Seaforth, they were supposed to play Tuesday night. Of course, rain has been, pushing their game back further and further. So it was pushed back to last night, still didn't happen. So now we're going to play tonight at number 1 Midway at 6. Will be a quick turnaround if they do win this game, because the fourth round is supposed to be tomorrow night, and they'll probably have to travel for that game as well. So yeah, we'll see what Seaforth can do tonight against the number 1 seed and see if they can continue their magical historical run for softball this season.
Yes, and I just want to remind folks, follow Ashibo on X on Ashibo R38. It's Ashibo R38 because he keeps up on that information. You don't have to wait to come back to us on Thursday. You don't have to wait to pick up a copy of the paper on Thursday. Just follow him on X. So we got golf, baseball, softball. Do you want to tackle lacrosse, or do you want to tackle soccer?
We can do lacrosse right quick. So I got it right here.
Right.
And we only have one game played, I think, so far in the lacrosse playoffs, of course, with buys, and the girls' first round not starting until tomorrow. So boys on the boys side, number 13 Northwood in the 1A, 2A, 3A bracket, they dominated Fike 18-3 in their first round game. So they're going to be playing at number 4 Union Pines tomorrow at 7. You guys remember Union Pines just played Seaforth. Seaforth beat them a couple weeks ago. And that's a familiar opponent for a lot of our Chatham teams, as it's not too far down the road in Moore County. And then, of course, Seaforth, number 3 seed, will be playing number 14 Havelock tomorrow at 5:30 at home on the boys' side. And if they win that one, if Orange wins their game, then we might have a rematch with Seaforth and Orange in the third round. But we'll see how both teams do tomorrow before we get there. And then on the girls' side, we have number 12 Northwood playing number 5 Swansboro tomorrow at 7. And then number 4 Seaforth will also be will host number 13 Cape Fear tomorrow at 7 as well. So those are our lacrosse games scheduled for the playoffs this week. And then going into girls soccer.
Before we get on the into soccer, on the lacrosse, I would agree with you. I'd love to see Seaforth play Orange again. I was at the Northwood versus Fike game. Northwood came across strong. They went into running clock second half. They are meeting Union Pines, which is I think 4th seed, so that should be a little bit tougher game for them. I think the biggest thing this year with the Northwood lacrosse team is they've got a bunch of good players. They just don't have enough bodies. They can't substitute players the way some of the other teams that have more bodies in there. So we're ready to get into the next sport, soccer. There's a lot going on in that as well.
Yeah, girls soccer. So we had our round 1 happen earlier this week, and just starting on the 2A side, number 4 Seaforth took care of business against number 29 Red Springs 9-0. And that one, Kaylin Ehrman, 6 goals from her. She led the team, and that's back-to-back 6-goal games for her, because she had 6 against Bartley Yancey to close out the regular season last week as well. And also, Sophia is back. So, Seaforth looking healthy, looking strong going into the second round. They'll be hosting NCSSM Durham tonight at 6, and I'll be out there to report on that one. And then number 16 Northwood won a close one over conference rival number 17 Southeast Alabama in a 16-17 matchup, like we said, seed-wise. And that one, both teams split in the regular season. So you knew this one was going to be a heated matchup, and Northwood pulled it out by 1 goal. So they're next at number 1 Franklin Academy tonight at 7:30. Tough one for them tonight, but we'll see if they can pull off the upset. Franklin Academy, a lot of people have been talking about, the favorites to win, to come out on the 2A East side, especially what they've done this season. I think they were undefeated in the conference, and I want to say undefeated in the regular season too, but don't take that all the way because I'm not totally sure. But yeah, great team that they're going to play. And then on the 1A side, Woods Charter, number 2, beat number 31 Cape Hatteras 9-0. And in that one, Annabelle Una, 4 goals, Lucy Poitras, 3 goals. Business as usual for the Wolves in the first round there. And they'll be against number 15 Roxborough Community today at 3:30 p.m. at home.
Hey, Shibo, I just want to interrupt. I just checked their feed on X for Woods Charter Soccer, and they actually showing as 6 o'clock. So we'll need to verify that. If that's the case, I'll go shoot the first half of the Woods game and then run over to the Seaforth game because both those teams should get farther into the playoffs.
Yeah. We'll
figure it out, folks.
Actual time for that one. Yeah, for some reason on Max Preps it said 3:30, but we'll see.
All right.
And then also in 1A we had Chatham Charter playing number 7 Northmore, and they lost that one 8-0. So Chatham Charter season ended earlier this week, and they ended with a 5-15 overall record. So that's just a quick roundup, girls soccer for the first round, and where our county teams will be at for round 2 tonight.
All right, that leads us into track and field. So there's a whole bunch going on there, and Chatham County has several individuals that are just doing really well this season. So give folks a rundown of track and field.
Yeah, plenty of individuals from the county qualified for the state meet with 1A tomorrow at NCA&T in Greensboro, and then 2A will be on Saturday at the same place. So you can read more about who all qualified specifically for what event. It's a lot of them from each side in our roundup that came out today. And I can just run down the regional champions, though, that did come in first place at the regional meets. So on the 1A side, Taurus Price, the 1A Mid-East Regional, he won the 800-meter run and the 3,200-meter run for Chatham Charter. And then Ezra Roebuck, Wyatt Webster, Jason Selleck, and Dylan Villanueva from Woods Charter won the 4x4 for Woods Charter as well. So those are your regional champions for the boys side in 1A. On the girls side in 1A, we had Jordan Garner from Chatham Charter winning in the long jump and discus. Dana Sudhir, Dara Sudhir, Michaela Valentine, and Sofia Rodriguez from Woods Charter. They won the 4x800 in their regional. And like we said, they'll be, of course, qualifying for state along with some more of their teammates as well that you can read more about. And on the 2A side, only regional champion from the 2A side on the girls side of things is Claire Morgan in pole vault. She's from Seaforth and won that one with a mark of 9 feet 6 inches. And then on the boys side, Seaforth had plenty of regional champions. We had Sebastian Calderon winning in the 400-meter dash, Will Quickie winning in the 800-meter run, Jack Anstrom, also from Seaforth, winning in the 1600 and the 3200, and Calderon, Paul Quickie, Walter Entrekin, Will Quickie winning in the 4x4, Paul Quickie, Waylon Vose, Jack Anstrom, Will Quickie winning in the 4x8, and Luke Wallstein from Northwood winning in the high jump, Kamari Hadley from Jordan Matthews taking the long jump, and Ryan Yoder from Seaforth taking the pole vault regional championship, and Dylan Watkins from Seaforth also as well taking discus in the 2A Mid-East Regional. So, yeah, like I said, plenty of 2A regional champions from the boys' side, and especially Seaforth. A lot of those kids could definitely be competing for state championships in their respective events. So watch out for those. I'll be at both of the meets Friday and Saturday reporting on which teams are doing well and who has a shot at winning state at those meets. So, yeah, and Gene, do you want to go ahead and talk about the rest of the stories coming out in the paper?
Yeah, but before we get that, and we had this on the agenda and I overlooked it. Actually, there's two things before we get into stories. One, Drake Powell. It looks like Drake is staying in the NBA draft. His performance in the Chicago Combine has been going well. And what are you hearing about it? Because what I'm hearing is Drake's interest. Let's put it this way: NBA pro teams' interest in Drake is high enough that he's going to be probably staying in and not coming back to Carolina.
Yeah, then and that's what he came out and said. Gave to reporters yesterday was that he is all in on the draft. So it's starting to look, less likely that he is coming back out. But yeah, he from the combine, he looked the part as an athlete, right? He had the highest max vertical leap, 43 inches. I think he also had the highest no step vertical, 37.5 inches. And was pretty high up in the rankings as far as the agility drills as well. So he passed the athletic test, and I think I think we'll maybe get to see him in some of the scrimmages they'll do. I think they're doing some more today as well. But yeah, Drake has definitely helped his draft stock. I feel like what he's shown and what he's tested with so far. And like we said, we saw it when he was at Northwood. We saw it at Carolina. He knows how to use his athleticism to his advantage, running the floor, cleaning up rebounds, getting blocks. But also he showed the ability to knock down some threes at UNC as well. And a lot of NBA teams can use a 3-and-D guy, two-way player that can be elite defensively, but also score some points and contribute offensively on the other side. So as long as he, shows some good things in the shooting drills, I think I read somewhere here, I think he did 55% in all of his shooting drills. So he'll get another chance to, perform better there. But I think, yeah, like we said, he definitely helped his draft stock. And that's the thing he said yesterday in interviews, that he really wants to show his two-way ability in whatever NBA team, if he gets a chance to, play in the NBA and maybe, not on the G League, but on the NBA level, he'll definitely get to show that because, like we said, he's definitely looked the part on the defensive end and with his athleticism, and that could definitely be a value to a lot of NBA teams.
Yeah, and folks, as I mentioned, Shible's definitely worth following on X. I follow him on X, and I also repost a lot of his stuff because the stuff that he's mentioned about Drake, he's actually reposted some of those videos of the interviews with Drake, so you'll be able to see that. But folks, don't worry, we will have a Chatham County player on the UNC team next year. Jaron Stevenson's going to be there. The other thing, and I've forgotten to mention this for the last two podcasts, if you cannot get enough of Ashibo, he also does a podcast with a couple of his friends, and you're looking at all sorts of outside Chatham County sports, including especially I think the NBA. So we want to give folks an idea as to what you're doing and where they can find you.
Yeah, the Bricks Podcast, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts as well. It was just something a college friend of mine who's working as a producer at ESPN. We started in our freshman year of college at UNC, and we just kind of kept it going. Eventually, got to do some big things. We do some stuff with sports and music as well, and pretty much just culture topics, just where we can step outside of, our realms of work, UNC, or, what I do here in Chatham County, and just join the conversations and other things, sports and culture related. So yeah, right now we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs, so we're talking a lot about that. We talk a lot about NFL as well, with schedule releases and kind of the NFL draft and what teams, drafted well, which teams didn't. So, yeah, we get into a lot of things. So if you just want to hear some conversations about, the pro league, college sports, music as well, we do a lot of, talk about hip hop and what we enjoy. Then you can, like I said, listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch our podcast on YouTube. We have a lot of fun on there with me, our co-host Galin, that's the one who's at ESPN and started this podcast, and our other co-host Omar as well, who works in data analytics for a lot of sports teams in college, and aspires to work in the pro level with that as well.
Yeah, so folks, you definitely need to check it out. It's fun to watch, and it's also fun to listen to. So, Ashibo is multifaceted. He's not just doing stuff in Chatham County. He just loves sports. All right, let's get into what you got in the newspaper. I know you covered a lot of stuff already, but why don't you tell folks why it's worth going out there and picking up a newspaper today?
Yeah, so like we said, you can read more about the track athletes that qualify for the state in our Roundup. as well as recap of the end of the girls soccer and lacrosse seasons in our recent roundup. And then we also have a story with a couple of athletes signing to their college programs and where they're going to be playing on the college level. So you can read more about that. We have a couple from Chatham Central, big one from the basketball side on Chatham Central. And we have one from Northwood basketball as well as Seaford soccer. And also, too, there's more going to be coming. Well, there are going to be more signees coming in a couple weeks, especially from Chatham Central. They'll have a signing day next week on Wednesday. And then we have our baseball, softball playoff roundup from the first two rounds. Of course, you can read more about Seaford's first softball playoff victory and what happened in that one with the walk-off win. And, we have more on that. And then coming out in the paper today, but also online tomorrow, we'll have the story from Tobert Matthews meeting the Seaford community and just more about his plans for the program and kind of, just what he plans to do in his words and how he feels about coming in and coaching at Seaford. And then we also have a story on previewing the Chatham American Legion team post 305. So we have the schedule, just a little bit of what happened last year with the team. And they're getting started on Sunday with their first game. You can read more about that and where they'll be for this season in the summer. So that's what we have in the paper this week.
All right. And now the thing that everybody waits for is who is Ashibo's athlete of the week?
Yeah, athlete of the week going back to softball once again. Emma Grace Hill from Seaford earns it this week. And it was just for her performance in those first two rounds, right? So in the first round game against number 24 Whiteville, tied at 1-1 in the bottom of the seventh inning. She knocked in a double and sent home Kaylin Long for the walk-off RBI and, of course, the walk-off win. So first ever playoff win for Seaford on her back. And then on the mound in that game as well, she struck out 12 batters. Not in the mound, I'm sorry, in the circle. Struck out 12 batters to, just kind of be a wall in that one. And then in the second round, 2 hits, team behind that one, 8 strikeouts in the circle and a 1-0 shutout. So she was lights out in those first 2 rounds on both sides of the ball. And we'll get to see again whether she can break it again tonight against the number 1 seed in Midway and keep their run going as they go look to make the 4th round for later next week. And we'll see what she can do. So congrats to Emma Grace Hill and Seaford softball as a whole on a great season.
Yeah, Emma, congratulations. Emma Grace, congratulations. Shibo and I, actually, Shibo had an opportunity to talk to Coach Ledford and Emma Grace and another player after their first win. And I think they all admitted they're having more fun playing this year than they did last year. And, of course, one of the things they're happy about is the fact that they've gotten this far in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens tonight. All right, Shibo, what are you going to be covering? You mentioned you're doing track and field Friday and Saturday, and tonight you're doing the Seaford lacrosse, Seaford soccer game. Is that right?
Yep, I'll be going to Seaford to check out the girls' soccer game against NCSSM Durham. NCSSM kind of, did a little bit of homework on them. Pretty good team. And they're in the same conference as Franklin Academy and played Franklin Academy pretty close in their 2 games. I think they lost the first one 4-2 and lost the second one 4-0. But, of course, Franklin Academy pretty much dominated everyone else on their schedule this season. So, that's a battle-tested team that Seaford is seeing tonight. And we'll see how they can do and try to continue their dominance on their end as well in these playoffs.
Yeah, and I was going to say I'm planning to do the first half of the Woods game if I can, and then run over to do the Seaforth soccer game, and then tomorrow we'll be doing lacrosse because Seaforth boys will be. They had a bye earlier in the week, so it's going to be their first lacrosse game on Friday. I still don't know what we're doing on Saturday. Anything else before we wrap it up here? And folks, thanks for sticking with us. I see we've got over 30 of you watching right now. Don't forget, you can still keep on watching us. We're on X. Actually, 22 of the 30 that are watching on X. And we're available on Facebook, X, and on YouTube. So, Shibo, anything else before we wrap up?
Nope, I think we got it all covered. Yeah, we got a long one today because it's a lot going on. So, but after this week, I think we'll be done with, I would say, about half of the playoffs, and we'll be just heading into the home stretch for the end of the season. So, interested to see if we got any athletes, any teams making it to the state playoffs. I mean, to the state championships, and maybe bringing home some hardware this year. Like we had a couple teams last year do it. So, see if they can do it again.
Yeah, the girls soccer team at Seaforth and the girls soccer team at Woods, we got to see their championship games last year. So we'll see how far they go this year. Folks, come back next Thursday, same time at noontime. We'll see you there. And a reminder, follow Ashibo on Ashibo R38 on X. Why? Because he's posting stuff, and he also does, if he has an opportunity, does post-game interviews with a couple of players and the coaches. So it's there, and if your grandmother wants to see you and she doesn't know how to get onto X, show her how to do that. All right, folks, we will see you next Thursday. Maybe we'll see you at some of the games in the next few days, or maybe the track and field events.